What's going on, everybody? John Mosley here, Artistic Director for John Paul Mitchell Systems. I kind of handle everything kind of barbering, our men's world, right? So today, we got a little gift for you guys. First off, we want to thank you for joining us on our Paul Mitchell YouTube channel. And then now, let's get into some brushing up. You know, you sit in the shops, you see barbers always using their brushes and things like that, and you want to know where they get their skills from? So today, I'm bringing you somebody that's super skillful in everything men's, and we're going to talk to our boy Sin today. My dog Sin, he's super talented, national educator for JPMS, a shop owner, an educator, a father, he's everything. But more importantly, he's here today to help you brush up on your barbering skills. So Sin, take it away.
Hey guys, my name is Sin and I'm back again with another brush up video for you guys. In this video, I'm going to be working with more of a coily texture, and so I'm going to work down into a nice low fade, and then on top I'm going to finish off with some MVRCK products and then finish off with a nice curl sponge to show some of that texture. Alright, so to start off this drop fade, what I'm going to do is establish my shortest length with my trimmers. So I'm starting right at that temple region. I'm going to create a nice horizontal line right above the ear, and then to really exaggerate that drop right behind the ear at that mastoid process, I'm going to drop that right below the occipital down here. All right, so my next step, what I'm gonna do is establish my longest length up top to create an area of where my fade is gonna sit here. So I'm using my 1.5 guard here, and what I'm gonna do is work down with the grain. So when we're working with the grain, all we're doing is working with the growth patterns this way. It's key to go with the grain to make sure that we don't cut into the curl pattern up top. If we're preserving all this texture in this curl pattern up top, we want to make sure that we're going with the grain to maintain a nice transition between the shorter lengths. And then once we're building that length into that top pattern, we want to make sure that there's still a nice transition in between both formations. I'm going to start again working from top to bottom. The reason why I'm working from top to bottom in this fade here is because I want to preserve this shape and this darkness up here. If I were to work from the bottom up, I would feel like I would potentially push this fade up too high, and I want to maintain this fade to stay nice and low to really contour with the head shape. So my first guard I'll be working with is that 1 guard, and I'm starting with that in the open position. And this length on the sides here is fairly short, so I don't need to necessarily go down with the grain. I'm going to be coming up against the grain here. So this area that I'm blending in now, I'm coming up about a width of the comb from my shortest point there. From here, what I'll do now is I'll work my clipper down into that closed position, and all I'm doing now is working from the longer length down into the shorter length. My next guard that I'll be switching down into is my half guard here. So my half guard, I'm going to be starting in that open position again and just working from top down from the longer lengths into the shorter lengths. Once that step is good, I'm going to close it down. And every step that I take, I'm just gradually going lower and lower with each guard to make sure that fade doesn't get brought up too high. My next step now is using no guard with my clipper in the open position. And we're going to slowly start to work this bottom line out. Sometimes when you're looking at the growth patterns, it's really important to pay attention to how the hair is growing, because we're going to get a cleaner cut if we cut against the grain on the bottom here. So you guys can tell that that growth pattern is growing backwards this way. So I'm going to come at an angle and chip up at that line with the corner of my clipper here. And now my last step, I'll just close my clipper down all the way just to really eliminate and soften that bottom line there. As I get down to this last step, if I need to adjust my lever a little bit longer and kind of soften or refine that blend, then I can do so if needed. So as I'm working through the top here, I noticed that as I comb it out, there's a lot of weight that's still left at the top of the pretal ridge here. And so what I'm using is a number 3 guard in the open position. I'm choosing a larger guard to make sure that I don't cut too much hair off. As I'm working through the top here to preserve this shape, I'm going to come down with the grain to kind of knock down some of that weight and that bulk, but also maintain some of that shape through the top here. So I'll start with that 3 open and work my way down. And what I'm visually looking for is the weight and how dense and dark some areas are looking. If I notice that that 3 open is not lightening up some of those areas, I can slowly close my clipper down. That'll allow me to cut a little bit shorter and knock out those darker areas that I'm looking at. Barbering is very visual, and so we have to use our eyes to distinguish and help us make decisions on what we need to do with the tools that we have. All right, so when we're finishing up the top, to clean up the top, we want to make sure that we're really expanding all that curl pattern and that coily texture to make sure that everything is going to be nice and even. So us picking it out with an afro pick is going to help us expand that shape. Since we can't really comb out and stretch out the hair with our fingers, we're just going to use this freehand method with our scissors and just lightly graze over the top to clean up any of these stray hairs that we do see over the top. So when I'm running through the top with my scissors, it allows me to be a little bit more creative and work free-handedly to really just clean up any of that final detail work and create the shape that I'm looking for. We're not really diminishing a lot of the weight or length through the top. It's really just cleaning up and refining that shape with our scissors. And using the scissors as the tool is going to be a little bit more safe on this aspect of we have a little bit more control over this as opposed to running through the top with a machine. It's always important to take a few steps back to make sure you check your work, to check for balance. And as you guys are cutting the top with scissors, make sure you still pick it out after every few passes to make sure everything is even, because it can get flattened down by your scissors. All right, to finish off our detailing here, we're just gonna lightly line up the hairline. So whenever I line up the hairline, I wanna make sure I'm checking from that front view and really inspect the hairline to make sure that you can really tell the difference between any thin areas or any dark areas. So you want that line to be consistent and even from side to side. I always start my section in the center and lightly just tap that hairline with my trimmers. A good tip to keep yourself steady is use the back of your knuckles of the opposing fingers that you have to kind of lightly brace yourself on the forehead here. And I'll work from the center out. And after every few cuts, I like to take a step back to make sure I am balanced on both sides. All right, so now after I've detailed the hairline and gave a nice little edge up, I'm just gonna go back through and kind of refine my fade through here. So I'm just doing a little bit of scissor over comb. The reason why I'm using scissor over comb for this refinement technique is the clippers did a great job, creating that shape and that shade of that fade. But as I go through, I want to lightly detail, and using the scissors with scissor over comb allows me to be a little bit more safe and not take too much of that length off, but really just refine some of those dark areas that I do see in the blend that I did create there. So I'm just lightly looking at some of these areas. What my eyes are looking for is just really any of those dark imperfections in that blend. And so doing a little bit of scissor over comb is lightly just softening that blend to create that nice gradients in the fade. To To finish off this look, I'm gonna grab our MVRCK Dry Paste. I'm gonna take a little bit out of the canister and apply it into my hands. This product is pretty thick, so I wanna make sure that I use the heat from my hands to emulsify it and kind of break down that product so it's easier for me to work that through the hair. We're gonna finish off with the curl sponge, that's gonna give us more of that natural look. So what this dry paste is really gonna allow me to do is really hold that style in after I use that curl sponge. So I'm just gonna really work this product in, try to work this in all the way down to the base, and you guys can already see from me applying some of this product, it's really showing off that natural texture. And it's gonna give me that hold, that firm hold from that product. So I really apply it through, then I'm gonna grab my sponge, and I'm just gonna work in clockwork. So I'm just gonna be working in clockwise motions and circular motions and really pushing the sponge down towards the base to really get that hair to get fed into that sponge to where we can create that natural textured look. So I'm just working in circular motions and clockwise motions to really ensure that that look stays consistent. So the more that you repeatedly go in clockwise motions, that tighter that curl or that pattern is gonna stay into the hair. So the more pressure you put and the more times you repeatedly go in clockwise motions, it's gonna help give more of a defined look to that curl. So throughout the styling process with the sponge, you wanna maintain the same direction that you are using that sponge. So if you start clockwise, stay clockwise. If you start counterclockwise, stay counterclockwise. The reason why is because we wanna maintain that curl. The moment that we switch directions, that curl is gonna start to unravel and that style is not gonna hold. So after you guys use the curl sponge to kind of rough up that curl and create that textured pattern, use your brush to kind of come down into the bottom segments and really lay down that wave to give it a nice polished look on the bottom with that fade. And that's gonna tie everything in together.
I told you guys we were not coming to play today. My man, Sin, laid it out all on the line for us and showed us how to use MVRCK, showed us how to use a little Mitch. So Sin, how you feel about it?
I feel great. Thanks for the kind words, John. And I hope you guys really enjoyed that video. And don't forget to check out the rest of the Barber Brush Up series. Don't forget, comment, like, share, and then subscribe and turn on those notifications. Check us out next time.